Greetings, everyone, and thank you for listening to us. Just to be clear, this podcast will be handling a story with some very mature themes, such as drug abuse, occultism, cruelty, extreme violence, foul language, and others. Please, if you do not feel ready to listen to such content, consider listening to some of our other shows instead. Thank you. Greetings to everybody. And welcome to this RPG podcast where we are playing Vampire the Requiem 2nd edition.
But not exactly.
Because this is not episode 1. This is the recap of episode 1. Why? Because we just shot an 8-episode miniseries that is considered to be the technical season, in which we test our equipment, we test specific ways to do combat and other things. So we had a couple of different things that did not go as well. The sound quality of episode 1 in its entirety is something that did not go as well. And we're still going to release that. And people will be able to listen to the entire 2 hours and 30 minutes of that episode. But for those that do not want to experience that, we just have a recap that can get you into the story. So when you start listening to episode 2, you know what the hell is going on. So yeah, pretty much this is what we're doing today. My name is Andrei Androv. I am the storyteller of this adventure, and this is Vladimir Semyonov,
who is playing the young vampiress, who is the main character of the story.
Yes, exactly. Whose name is Vladimira.
Awfully so. I think the recap is a great place to actually at least justify this horrible naming. The trouble was, after Andy proposed we play Vampire, he gave me the rule book, he told me about the world he had built, and told me to just build a character. And I did so. One night, after I had a very great evening with a bunch of friends at a bar, I came home and I started frantically messaging him all of my ideas, the background, the skills, the stats, the disciplines, her motivations, her characteristics and all that, which was all great. Sadly, when the first session of the campaign came and we had to introduce ourselves, I realized I hadn't picked a name for my character. With all the backstory, all the details, and all the meticulous work I put into building the character, I had forgotten to give her a name. And on the spot, I just blurted out Vladdy. And now I'm stuck playing my namesake.
I mean, nothing wrong with that, honestly. You know that jokes that Tolkien invents entire languages and then there's also Mount Doom?
Yeah.
Yep, so pretty much that's what's going on here. But yeah, no worries about that, man. No worries about that. I definitely have started seeing Vladi and Vladi as 2 different beings.
Hopefully.
So yeah. Anyways, actually, let's introduce people to what has been going on.
Prior to episode 1.
Yeah, in general. So, since we're playing Vampire the Requiem, we chose our own city, Sofia, the capital of Bulgaria, to be the map where we're going to, and the setting where we're going to play. But with one specific difference, this is the darkest timeline of Sofia, where actually there has been a political coup where Sofia as a city has detached from Bulgaria as a country and became like a city-state, which is being protected by the army of the Netherlands and the UK for some reason. Yes, there is quite a lot of political and military tension between Bulgaria and Sofia. A huge wall is being built around the city. And for 5 years already, the denizens of neo-sofia, as it's being called, are existing in a little bit more harsh...
bypass.
The bypass road. So the wall is being built on the bypass road. And it is the darkest timeline, but people do still go out drinking. The mafia is doing whatever. And actually, here's the deal. Because Sofia detached from Sofia, the human...
Sofia detached from Bulgaria.
Yeah, Sofia detached from Bulgaria. The drug-dealing human mafia became weakened. And this is the moment where the kindred society of the vampires decides to take back the drug rings, which used to be their most powerful financial tool and instrument before the 90s and before the falling of the Berlin Wall. So, entering into our story, young Vladimira, as a human, tell me what she was as a human.
Well, Vladimira was one of those drug dealers, one of those opportunistic drug dealers that made her business in the chaos of the separation.
Mm-hmm.
She has basically been a scoundrel all her life, and she has always lived off either her drug money or some dark web investments that she had made years prior.
And actually, you started the story as quite the rich person.
I
already had foreign resources.
Not 4.
Really?
It was 3.
Oh, okay.
I had quite a lot of money, but not necessarily as much as I went on to have.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Not nearly as much as I went on to have.
I forgotten about that. Okay.
And first thing that I learned once I became a vampire was that I was under the protection of some sleazy businessman dude named Tarnov.
Yes. So actually, you woke up without a sire in the beginning.
I did.
Which is always a problem in kindred societies all around the world, because usually it is the sire who teaches you about the rules, about the traditions, and they also... Well, basically, they are responsible for you being a fool and not understanding how the game works. And when you do stupid shit, your sire gets in danger as well. But also, you cannot be hurt by other kindred because your sire protects you.
Yeah.
And hurting you means attacking your sire directly. Almost. So, you being without a sire is actually quite a problem. And Mr. Tarnov, who was as a human... So he's someone who is famous both in the kindred world and in the human world. As a human, he is the leader of Tarnov Security, which is one of the many private security companies that live in Sofia. And I think nobody does not suspect that these security companies are not affiliated with the mafia in one way or another.
Yeah.
So... Tarnov is kind of a problematic figure in the human world and even more problematic figure in the kindred world because he claims to be the prince of the center or even the prince of Sofia.
Yes.
He is one of the 2 leaders within the Invictus, although the Invictus is being split in 2. You see, one part of the Invictus follows a kindred woman named Dharma, who... in the beginning of the story, occupies the eastern parts of Sofia as she deals with the many human gangs that are still trying to protect their drug rings. So while she is busy at that, Tarnov controls the center, and by him controlling the center, he controls some of the biggest clubs, hotels, and establishments that the center can provide. You meet him in Sin City, which was one of the Elysiums for the Kindred. And in that time, you were assigned a mentor who was Venci, who was a player that...
Venci Gwen?
Yeah, his name was Gwen, and he was a Vietnamese person who during the... Was it the 90s? Yeah, during the 90s, he got affiliated with the old prince of Sofia, who disappeared afterwards. And he actually was sired by the so-called old prince. So... Venci is kind of has an important lineage, although he himself spent those 30 years partying and being a piece
fucking around
garbage. Yes, Venci's sister though had elevated herself to the point of being Tarnov's sheriff, and she was quite the dangerous kindred. But anyways, you meet Venci and he becomes your mentor.
Yeah.
Immediately, both of you are tasked to investigate the breach of the masquerade, which is a good way for you to learn why the masquerade should not be breached and why that is the absolute first tradition. During this investigation, you also acquire the help of Krumen, who...
is another player character.
Yes.
A Deva kindred.
Yep. Who had very good sense of smell. That was the reason why you guys employed him, actually.
That's true. And also... On this same mission, we met with Ugnian.
Yes, who supposedly was investigating the breach as well, but he was not sent by the Invictus.
He was not sent by the Invictus.
Long story short, these four became the group of players that were playing in a home game that we played before starting recording this podcast. And very quickly, while investigating the breach of the masquerade, the four broke the masquerade themselves. That included being publicly shot, finding yourselves in the morgues of the city, escaping from the morgues,
multiple times,
getting arrested, stealing cars,
killing a few people,
humanity going down.
Oh, definitely.
As a stat. Very quickly, and this brought some attention into the human world. Your name and Vance's name became quite famous, and the Kindred Society started asking questions. Who the hell are these? Why are we not hunting them? This led to a very important meeting between the leaders of the Invictus and the leaders of the Cartians. The Cartians as well are separated into factions. And that fourth player, Ugnian, he was part of one of those. So, because the three of you, Krumen, Venci, and Vladi, broke the masquerade and were under the protection of Tarnov, he took the blame. And he did a strange political move where he counter-offered the rest of the leaders with such a tempting offer that they could not resist. The Cartians and the Invictus went into a peace treaty. And Dharma took over quite a lot of the territory of Tarnov. Some parts of the territory of Tarnov he gave to the Cartians as well. So all the other factions pretty much benefited from Tarnov losing power. But he requested for a killing in neo-sofia, for there are too many kindred within the city. And what better faction to be called than the Circle of the Crowns, who have been absolutely independent in the south of Sofia.
This whole time.
Yeah, this whole time.
Yeah.
And Tarnov says, look, I'm giving up all my territories. I myself am going to head this war. I need your aid. And when we take over their territory, there will be space for everyone, and I will place myself within the sound. And everyone's happy. While this is happening, Vladimira is actually not in this very important meeting, because Vladimira is in the south of Sofia, where she has a meeting with a strange woman who reveals that she is the actual sire of Vladimira. And more importantly, she is part of the Circle of the Crown, and she is an important figure of the Circle of the Crown. This kindred is named Marietta. Actually, you haven't been talking too much, so maybe I should let you say stuff.
It's fine. Yes. So while this meeting was going on, I met with my sire, Marietta, who told me about my lineage.
Vladi learns about her lineage and decides that she's not going to follow Tarnov and the Invictus anymore. What were the reasons back then for Vladimir to decide, okay, Tarnov is not the one that I should follow?
Well, for example, him not giving me the time of day, always sending me on errands without ever bothering to properly educate me on what I should and shouldn't be doing as a kindred.
Well, he was expecting Venci to be doing that, though Venci did not do a good job in it. And Tarnov was actually kind of expecting that.
Oh, well, if he was expecting that, he didn't do anything to remedy the situation.
That's the thing. He used Venci's incompetence to manipulate those events.
Yeah, to use as scapegoats, if I'm not mistaken. So that was the biggest reason why I left the Invictus. The other one being that, well, me having found my sire gives me a better chance of fitting in with the Crones than it ever did with the Invictus.
Yep, indeed. And I think pretty much this is where first season of the home campaign ended, and this is where this podcast starts.
Yes.
If I believe correctly, it's just been maybe a few days or a week or something after this important meeting in the center, where the whispers of war have started to spread around Sofia. You have been sleeping in hotels during that time, and it's been becoming increasingly difficult to keep the mask on, to
hide from the Invictus and the Cartians.
Yes. And you get caught by Marietta. This is how episode 1 of the podcast starts. So if you actually go to listen to episode 1, this is where we basically kick in. And here in the recap, we'll just do the shortened version of what events happened.
So you'd have the context for the coming episodes, whose audio is actually listenable.
Well, this one is listenable as well. It's just that the volume controls are totally messed up.
Yeah, I mean, we are going to upload the first episode as well.
Yeah, so, we did say that.
Yeah, okay, good. So what happened was, I got a phone call from Marietta to meet at a place close to the South Park, where I went, and she explained to me that, well...
You met her crow as well.
I did meet her crow, yeah.
Yes, she does have some sort of an undead crow familiar.
I mean, she does have lots of undead crow familiars.
Yes. As we will learn during the season.
After our meeting, she led me to what we call Crone HQ, which is basically just the witch's house near the South Park, where she explained to me that now that I've defected from the Invictus, they could use me for a couple of errands as a introduction to the Crone life, as a part of a trial.
Yes, but before all of that, you did, by even trying to enter Crone HQ, you entered some sort of a strange domain that obscured the House of the Crones. And basically on the entire street where this house is located causes extreme vertigo and not delusions, but frustration, misdirection. As you enter this area, you completely lose track of where you are or where you should be.
I'm just following Marietta blindly.
Yes.
Barely even keeping up.
For Marietta, it's not even a problem to navigate through this strange world. And very soon you find this 20th century house, 2 floors, with a beautiful old garden. And it's just a very nice, antique, Gothic, maybe even house, from which the worst possible kind of techno music is blasting. Yes. Even before you enter the house, you do have some conversations with Marietta, as she does apologize that she had thrown you away.
Yeah, she explained that her plan was to use me to infiltrate the Invictus, and hopefully, if I come back to the Crones, I would have something useful for them.
Yep.
Which is kind of a stupid plan now that I think about it, because who's to say that I would have defected from the Invictus?
Nobody. They took a risk. They did not want you to know why you are being sent into the Invictus, because they know Tarnuf is capable in the dominate discipline, one of the secret techniques of the Ventruk one, from which you are part of.
And Marietta.
Marietta as well. So he would have easily managed to find if you were actually a spy.
Yeah.
So they had a belief in you.
Plans within plans.
You proved to basically do exactly what they were expecting. Getting into some trouble, getting some allies, making some enemies, and exiting the Invictus as soon as possible to find yourself without protection once again, and Marietta magically appearing and be like, "Oh, I am your sire. Come with me to a magical land.
Yeah, let's be witches together.
Yes.
And that's exactly what we did.
Yep, absolutely. And you do enter the house, where you meet your future housemate, Stitch, who is a Nosferatu kindred, who has a nasty look on her face almost all of the time. She is the information and technological guru of the Circle of the Crones.
But why do we call her Stitch? You should probably start with that.
Yes, we do call her Stitch. Why? Because her body has been vertically bisected. So she has this open wound that goes from her face down her chin, chest, belly, and so on and so on. She's basically split in two.
Yeah,
the only thing
stitched back together.
Yes, and only thing that holds her are the stitches that hold her back together, as you say. One of the many ways the Nosferatu Bane can manifest. She is very bad-tempered, but she does acknowledge that you have done well.
And also very much likes me because of my tremendous sense of humor.
Of course. As people in episode 2 will see, most likely. But yeah. Well, you still have not seen her behave well with anyone, actually, even with her colleagues.
At this point, yeah.
Sisters, not colleagues. But yeah, Marietta and Stitch do live together in this house, and there seems to be a third housemate, which they call Mother Siva. Mother Siva is not present in this meeting, and you will meet her, I think, in episode 2, maybe. We have to see, yeah. So, you do meet with the two of them. They do some explanations on, hey, we are the Crones. This is what we do. We are all about freedom. We hate the Invictus because the Invictus are less about freedom. You know.
Of that hippie bullshit.
Yeah, we already know that there are whispers that we're going to be the scapegoats of Tarnov's little scheme. You learn some things about Tarnov as well, that he's been actually someone who has appeared and disappeared from the history of the Kindred Society for many decades already, including during the 90s, during the disappearance of the previous prince, and so on and so on. And only recently has Tarnov actually made a move to become someone with huge territory. Actually, during the beginning of the schism between Sofia and Bulgaria, Tarnov appears and starts gaining territory. Some even whisper that Tarnov may have influenced the schism of Sofia and Bulgaria. But those are unproved rumors still. Anyways, so they're pretty much against Tarnov, and they say we need to be preparing for a war. But here's the problem: the Crones are so free-loving; they actually are not united. But they do know that when the danger comes from the external places, sooner or later they will come together. So now they just need time to spread the message that the circle needs to be united once again. You also are very clearly given the information, not given the information, but you're made to understand that you are actually not part of the Crones yet. You are being a child of someone very important within the circle, which gives you quite a lot of freedom to operate within, but you still have to prove your own personal worth. And for that to happen, you will aid with this preparation for war. Your sire, Marietta, has already
contacted fellow Ventru kindred named Vrajden and set up a meeting. Now, the first of my trials would be meeting up with this Vrajden, who happens to be a historian, a very, very old kindred who keeps the records of our kind's misadventures.
Yeah, pretty much anything that's related to Kindred Society.
And the instructions I have from my sire are: see what his intentions are, see if he would be willing to ally with the Crones. However, this is secondary, as going into the meeting he wouldn't know that I am affiliated with the Crones.
Yes.
So, as far as gauging his position in the coming war, I was supposed to keep that a secret.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what I did. I went to the meeting.
Yep. You dress up nicely.
I dress up nicely.
Arrive in a very nice hotel where the whole, if I remember, the whole dining room was being cleared out for only you and Vrajden to dine.
Alone.
Mm.
So, as he sat down, I explained to him that I am a fairly young kindred who was abandoned by her sire.
Mm-hmm.
Not necessarily a lie. And the reason I wanted to meet up with him was to discuss the history of our clan.
Mm-hmm.
Being a Ventru himself, he would hopefully have the information I needed to understand my lineage.
Indeed.
And he did have that. And basically the whole evening went on without a hitch.
Yeah. You did learn that the Ventru actually come from Western Europe into Bulgaria, and that Kwan Gangrel actually were for quite a lot of time the absolute rulers of the entire Balkans as kindred, which changed when the Ottoman Empire brought the Nosferatu Kwan with themselves, and when the Roman people brought the Mehet Kwan with themselves. The Deva came from Greece, if I remember correctly, as well as from Western Europe, and Ventru came from Western Europe as well. But of course, that's part of your lineage, but also your human lineage is Bulgarian, Slavic, or whatever. So, you do have quite a lot from everything and everywhere, pretty much. Also, Vrazdan doesn't seem to be the usual Ventru that you meet, because he is
a lot more paranoid.
Yes, which is not necessarily not a Ventru trait, but he does not have that aura of I am better than you.
Yeah. I mean, all Ventru are paranoid. Most of us just hide it better.
Yes, definitely. He does seem to be fallen out of power, if he ever had some. So he shares during this dinner meeting that he's afraid that he'll be forced to join this war, because historians are dealers of information, and within the kindred society, information is a powerful weapon.
Within every society, information is a powerful weapon, especially during war.
Yeah.
And he is afraid that the Invictus will force him to join them.
Yes.
Which is why I offered him protection under the guise of, well, I'm filthy rich, so I can probably think of something.
Yes, at this point of the story, you already have started a new drug ring.
Oh, yeah.
With your touchstone.
That's true, and that's where a lot of my money actually came from.
Yes.
And why I somehow became one of the richest people
in the city.
Sofia.
Yeah. So, you are a young kindred with no knowledge of kindred society, but with money, and Vrazdan is someone with a lot of knowledge and no resources. So you seem like a perfect match for a team, and he does acknowledge that. How does the evening go from then on? I think
from then on,
you just shared contacts, and that was
we
it.
did. We went on our way. And I believe
he did mention that he was already being chased by some gangrels, and that he was afraid of being followed.
Oh, yes. But I remember in episode 2, actually, he gave me a call.
Yes, exactly. So, yeah, those gangrel do show up in episode 2.
But they're only hinted at in episode 1.
Yes.
And that concluded our meeting for the night. After which I went to see my former touchstone,
Black Radu, who has nothing black within or without.
Yeah. Who is one of my oldest human friends, and with whom I started the drug empire I have right now.
Empire? It's a little bit too much, because you're still trying to take hold of a single neighborhood.
That's actually not true. If you remember, we did have a lot of territory and we kind of lost it.
Oh, you mean during the human time of Vladimir?
That as well, but I mean, in the first season, we did have lots of territories and we lost it when some shit went down.
Okay. I wouldn't necessarily agree with that, because you still need to establish yourselves as a new product, basically.
That's true, and I do admit empire is a way too grand of a word for our enterprise.
But that is a goal.
That is a goal.
That will keep on being a goal for quite a lot of time.
And so I met up with him at a club where a rival drug dealer and his cronies, no pun intended, were trying to intimidate us into leaving the
neighborhood.
Yeah, the neighborhood. Which I did not appreciate too much, as I took their leader out for a walk, drained all of his blood. Sadly, I was too full to drink it all in, barfed it all over myself, and in order to at least somewhat hide this whole ordeal, I threw him in the trash, covered myself in... no, I didn't cover myself in mud this time. I found a taxi where I convinced the cab driver that I was being abused, I believe was the thing, or I was being chased and somebody tried to do awful things to me.
Mm-hmm. Oh, I've forgotten about that. Okay.
Which he bought. And that's how I came home. I called Radu to tell him everything was fine.
Everything was not fine.
Everything was definitely not fine. But that was a problem for another time.
Indeed. But also, as you drank the boat of that person, you did realize that he had a hint of vitae within his boat, which meant he was someone's ghoul.
He was somebody's ghoul.
And that whoever is the current drug dealing ring in the neighborhood that you are trading, they are also involved with the kindred, one way or another. So pretty much this is everything that happened in episode 1, with a lot of cool dialogue and with a lot of jokes that... if you have the nerves to listen through the actual episode 1, you can experience. But yes, as episode 2 begins, Vladimira finds herself back at the House of the Crones. Oh, we did not mention that this strange domain that makes everyone confused is actually Stitch's ritual of protecting the house. And Vladimira did drink
some of Stitch's blood.
Some of Stitch's blood in order to be invited within the domain, which means that Vladimira no longer sees this confusing realm. Instead, she sees the street and the house for what they really are. And yeah, I think that is pretty much everything that did happen in episode 1.
That's pretty much it, yes.
Indeed. So, thank you all for listening. This was a 36-minute recap. So we did quite well.
Free-form discussion almost.
Free-form discussion, yeah. We're very excited to present the rest of the episodes, as I think this is a very fun and cool story. And we did have a blast recording it, so we do hope you have a blast listening to it. And see you in episode 2. And thank you for listening.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.